Have you ever met someone who just felt like home? That's how it started for me. I wasn't even looking for anything serious. When we met, it was a casual gathering through mutual friends. The kind where you forget most people's names by the next day. But not his. He stood out. He was warm, attentive. The kind of person who asks you questions and really listens to the answers. It felt easy with him. Safe. We started spending more time together. Walks in the park. Late night conversations that made the hours disappear. And small things that made me believe this could be something real. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic, but his consistency meant a lot. He showed up, remembered what I said, and made me feel seen. Over time, I let my guard down, and trust doesn't come easily to me, so that says a lot. It was one of those beginnings where everything feels aligned, where you tell yourself, maybe I finally found someone who gets it. Who gets me? I shared things with him I hadn't told many people. Stories from childhood, my fears, even my past heartbreaks. And every time he made me feel like none of it was too much. Like he was in this for the long haul. Looking back now, maybe that comfort made me blind to things I should have noticed earlier. But at the time, all I knew was that I felt lucky. Lucky to have found someone who made the world feel a little softer. You know that feeling when something seems off, but you can't quite explain it? That started happening a few months into our relationship. Nothing obvious, just little shifts. He'd become quieter when his phone buzzed. Sometimes he'd step into another room to take a call. He said it was work, and I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then there were the stories. Tiny inconsistencies. He'd tell me he stayed late at the office, but a friend would mention seeing him out that same night. Or he'd say he forgot to reply to my text because he was so busy. Even though I saw he'd been online, I tried not to jump to conclusions. I reminded myself of how kind and present he'd been in the beginning. Maybe I'm overthinking, I told myself. Maybe I'm just scared. You see, I've been hurt before, and I promised myself I wouldn't let old wounds ruin something good. So I pushed those thoughts down and tried harder to trust, to be understanding, to believe in him. But deep down, something had changed. He still smiled, still held my hand, still said he loved me, but I couldn't help but wonder if those words meant the same thing to him as they did to me. And I started asking myself quiet questions in the dark. Was I imagining this? Was I being too sensitive? Or was there something he wasn't telling me? Wasn't ready to confront him yet. I didn't want to seem insecure, but a seed of doubt had been planted. And once it's there, it grows. The night I found out wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some explosive revelation like you see in movies. It was quiet, almost too quiet. He had gone to take a shower and left his phone on the kitchen counter. Normally, I wouldn't even glance at it. I've always believed in giving people their space, in trusting someone until they give you a reason not to. But that night, something pulled me. The screen lit up with a message preview. It was from someone I didn't recognize. The message was short. I miss how we used to be. My heart paused. I stared at it, waiting, hoping it meant something else. Anything else. But curiosity, or maybe that seed of doubt I mentioned, got the better of me. I opened the thread. It wasn't just one message. It was weeks, maybe months, of conversations. Flirtatious, nostalgic, and full of memories that clearly didn't include me. She knew things about him only someone who had been close would know. And worse, he responded with warmth, familiarity, and no mention of me. My hand shook. I put the phone down and stepped back like it had burned me. In that moment, my heart didn't break, it sank. Not because of what I read, but because the trust I'd worked so hard to build was gone in seconds. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat on the couch in silence, staring at the floor, asking myself, how long has he been emotionally somewhere else? Was I just a placeholder for something he hadn't let go of? I didn't confront him that night. I needed time. Time to think, to breathe, to understand what this meant for us. The next morning felt like walking through fog. I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the messages over and over, searching for signs I missed or truths I ignored. By the time he came into the kitchen, humming like it was just another day, I knew I couldn't pretend. Can we talk? I asked quietly. He looked at me, surprised, maybe even slightly nervous. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just asked, who is she? At first he looked confused, then defensive. What are you talking about? He asked, avoiding eye contact. I explained, softly but clearly, that I'd seen the messages. There was a long pause. Then came the deflection. You went through my phone? It hurt how quickly the focus shifted from his actions to mine. I took a deep breath and responded. I wouldn't have needed to if I didn't already feel something was off. Eventually he admitted it. He said they used to be close, a past relationship. Claimed it was innocent, that he missed their friendship, but that it meant nothing. I wanted to believe him. A part of me did, but another part, the one still aching from what I read, couldn't ignore the intimacy of their words. I asked him why he didn't tell me. Why hide it? He said he was afraid I'd overreact. But honesty isn't about predicting someone's reaction. It's about giving them the choice to understand you completely. I didn't shout. I didn't storm out. I just said, if it meant nothing, why did it feel like something? And in that moment, I think we both knew something had changed. After that conversation, everything felt different. It wasn't too loud. It wasn't too dramatic. But something between us had quietly cracked, like glass under pressure. We still shared the same space, ate dinner at the same table, slept on the same bed, but there was distance now, a silence that wasn't peaceful, just heavy. I tried to move past it. I really did. I kept thinking, maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe I'm overthinking. But every time he picked up his phone and turned slightly away from me, that ache returned. That question, why wasn't I enough to be honest with? One night, I asked him gently if he had cut contact with her. He paused, just a second too long, then nodded. Yeah, it's over. But I knew. I felt it, the same way I had felt it before. So I trusted my gut again. I didn't go through his phone this time. I didn't need to. I simply said, if you're still talking to her, I need you to tell me. Not because I want to catch you, but because I can't live in this half-truth. He looked down, and then quietly admitted they'd still been messaging. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt empty. In that moment, I realized I was holding on to something that wasn't holding me back. I'd made excuses. I'd clung to hope. But what I needed was peace, trust, safety. I told him I needed time, space, maybe even distance. And for the first time, he didn't fight me on it. That's when I knew the relationship I thought we had wasn't too real anymore. I spent the next few days in silence. No dramatic texts, no calls, just stillness. And in that stillness, I began to hear myself again, not the version of me who doubted, second-guessed, or twisted herself into knots trying to make things work. Just me. I walked through our apartment and noticed how many things reminded me of him. But they didn't bring me comfort anymore. They brought me anxiety. They were symbols of the version of our relationship I wished was real, not the one I was actually living in. That's when I knew I had been grieving something that only existed in my mind. I thought back to all the moments I tried to make it work. The late-night talks, the forgiveness, the quiet understanding I gave so freely while getting uncertainty in return. I kept waiting for him to choose me the way I kept choosing him. But he didn't. So I sat down and wrote a letter. Not for him, for myself. It was a promise that I wouldn't betray my own heart. Again, for the sake of someone else's comfort. That I would no longer stay in a place that made me question my worth. The next morning, I told him it was over. It wasn't loud or angry. It was calm, gentle even. I said, I deserve someone who tells me the truth without me having to ask for it. Someone who doesn't make me feel like I'm hard to love. He looked at me, eyes wide, and nodded. No arguments, just silence. And for the first time in months, I felt a weight lift off my chest. I had chosen myself, and that choice felt like freedom. It's been a while now since that day, the day I walked away. Some mornings I still wake up and feel the quiet. Not the uncomfortable silence I once feared, but a peaceful one. The kind that comes when you finally stop fighting for something that was never meant to stay. I used to think that ending a relationship meant failure. That if I just loved harder, forgave quicker, or stayed longer, things would change. But now I know, love shouldn't require me to lose myself. What I've learned is this. Trust isn't just about not keeping secrets. It's about creating safety. It's about being seen fully and still being chosen. When that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean you are too much. It might just mean they aren't enough for the version of you that's still growing. I've taken time to rebuild. I've gone on walks alone, reconnected with old friends, even laughed at things that once felt too heavy to touch. There's a part of me that will always carry the lessons of that relationship. But now I carry them with strength, not shame. To anyone listening who's questioning your instincts, your worth, or your place in someone's life, please hear me when I say, you're not wrong for wanting honesty. You're not overreacting by wanting to feel secure. And you are absolutely allowed to leave a space where you no longer feel at home. We all deserve a love that feels safe, true, and peaceful. So now I'll leave you with this. What would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever had to choose yourself too, you're not alone.